There aren't many climbs in the UK that hit 25% from both directions, but Wrynose Pass in the Lake District does exactly that. In this video, I'll be riding up both sides. First, the side what features on the Fred Whitton Sportive, west to east. Then I'll take on the other side, east to west, the tougher, wilder side, which is also part of the 100 climbs list. Stick around to see how they compare on the climbed and rated league table. East to west. On the Fred Whitton, you've just crawled up the 33% gradients of Hardknott Pass a mile ago, so this feels like a continuation of the suffering. But thankfully, Wrynose Pass is a climb that is backloaded, meaning that the start isn't too tough at all. The first half averages only 2%, giving your poor legs a chance to recover somewhat and give you a chance to admire the beautiful valley you are riding through. Then, past the footpath sign on your left, and this is where the final miles and the real climbing starts, averaging 8% from here to the summit with multiple sections over 20%. I pray that your legs have recovered just enough to get you over this next mile. The road isn't insanely steep yet, but as the road gently bends left and right, the gradient creeps upwards, hovering around 10% with the occasional ramp into the low to mid-teens. Your legs are feeling it, but the worst is yet to come, and you can see it. Up ahead, the final wall. Nowhere to hide, time to dig in. First, a leg snapping left bend that tops out at 22%. Short but brutal. Then there's a brief moment in the low teens before another bend where the road ramps up again, staying above 20% for much longer this time and maxing out at 26%. Progress here will be painful and slow, but you are nearly there now. Get around this last right bend and you survived Wrynose Pass on legs with 100 miles and 10,000 feet of fatigue from the Fred Whitton Sportive. Spin up the last few meters and you've reached the summit of Wrynose Pass, west to east. But stay alert, the descent down the other side is one of the fastest descents in the UK. On my first attempt of descending Wrynose Pass back in 2023, I got a bit scared of the descent and spent so much time on the brakes that I melted the front brake pad, it fell out of the caliper and whacked me in the leg. Scary with only a rear brake on a descent which is 25%. Luckily, no harm done. Before we turn around and go up the harder side of Wrynose Pass, which is part of Simon Warren's 100 climbs list, we need to rate Wrynose Pass west to east out of 20. Don't forget to leave your score of 20 in the comments. Difficulty. The first mile is easy, but the second hits hard, with several ramps over 20%, thankfully none of them too long. 3.5 out of 5. Scenery. This valley is seriously beautiful, one of the most picturesque places I have ridden in the UK. 5 out of 5. Ride environment. For a remote Lake District road, this surface is surprisingly decent. It's single track but wide enough for a car to pass safely. 3.5 out of 5. Satisfaction. A real solid climb, definitely worth ticking off, but with more famous climbs in the region, this one gets a bit overshadowed. 3.5 out of 5. We'll add all this up at the end of the video where we'll see where it places in the climbed and rated league table. But for now, let's make a U-turn and head up Wrynose Pass east to west. This side of Wrynose Pass is made famous by being in the original 100 climbs list and rated as a 10 out of 10 for difficulty by Simon Warren, so you know you are in for a battle up this road. You start straight over the cattle grid and you are immediately into double digits. Hit the S-bend early on and you're already seeing 17%. The gradient eases off into single digits, giving you a short break and a chance to soak in more stunning views of the empty valley to your right. We'll see these kind motorcyclists further up Wrynose Pass. Once the dry wall stone on the left disappears, that's your cue to physically and, more importantly, mentally be ready to suffer. The next mile averages 15% and the red triangle road sign confirms it, and max 25% lies ahead. The road runs straight up the right side of the mountain, mostly sitting between 10 and 15%, with the odd ramp nudging up to 20%. Bend left past the mini stone walls and you have just over a third of a mile left of the mile of suffering I was on about. But the bad news is it ramps up more. It averages 17.5% from here, and we are yet to reach the 25% part. This was the spot where I had to put my foot down on my first attempt of Wrynose Pass in 2023. I am determined to power through this time all the way to the summit. Luckily, I had some kind cheerleaders to keep morale high.
Cheers.
Stronger than we are, we need an engine.
I wish I had it.
Looking up at the final stretch to the full summit is terrifying. A 25% wall, so steep you should have wallpaper on it instead of tarmac. You've got to give everything here. My heart rate hit 184 beats per minute. I don't think this motorist will be swapping his car for a bike anytime soon.
Cheers.
What were you in the
You've now reached the full summit by the first small car park. After a short easy section, for the final time, the road sharply goes up to 17% by the third small car park, which signposts the summit of this demanding climb. Now we've climbed it, it's time to rate Wrynose Pass east to west out of 20, but don't forget to leave your score of 20 in the comments. Difficulty. I think this is on a par with Hardknott Pass, maybe even slightly more difficult due to it not having an easy part in the middle, and more often than not, this climb is accompanied by a headwind. 4.5 out of 5. Scenery, stunning, every direction, every part of this climb, just breathtaking. 5 out of 5. Ride environment, similar to the west side, but it is a bit more narrow in places and the tarmac is slightly rougher, but still perfectly rideable. 3 out of 5. Satisfaction, big reputation, massive effort, all adds up to massive satisfaction. But let's be honest, it's still not quite the main event with Hardknott Pass next door. 4.5 out of 5. That gives the 100 climb side of Wrynose Pass a score of 17 out of 20, and earlier on, the Fred Whitton side scored 15.5 out of 20. That puts the Fred Whitton side of Wrynose Pass in joint 5th place alongside Winterhill from Lancashire, and the 100 climb side joins its neighbour Hardknott Pass in 2nd place. Fleet Moss still holds the top spot. Continuing the Fred Whitton theme, the next episode will feature Whinlatter Pass and Newlands Hause, both which are also part of the original 100 climbs list. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't miss those next 2 climbs. If you've enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and drop a comment with your own thoughts and experiences of Wrynose Pass. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, up another climb on 2 wheels.